Hi, I am Catherine. I am the lead product manager here at the Bennett Institute. I have not always been a product manager. When I first heard about product, I had no idea what it was. If anyone in the audience thinking, yeah, me neither, I'm going to explain in just a minute. But as I learned about products, it really struck me that it's a really efficient way to deliver real-world value in the sort of best way possible. And as I learned more about it, the more I learned, the more convinced I became of that. So convinced, in fact, that I became a product manager. So as everyone in this room knows, Open Safely is an opportunity to deliver huge value by using data to improve people's lives. And I'm going to talk today about how the tech team has really carefully designed the way we work to use a product approach to deliver that value in a really well and really quickly. So what is a product? Well, in simple terms, a product is something that people use to get some value from. So when by considering Open Safely as a product and not just software, we focus not just on building and maintaining software, but on enabling our users to use the system to get value out. So in other words, it's not just about writing great code, although we do also do that. To do great things, you need great people. We have some fantastic engineers and product managers in the team, and we work really closely together to do product development. So onto how we shape the way we do our work. Firstly, we work in teams, and we create those teams really very carefully. Those of you who are familiar with team topology, this will be familiar. We have two technical teams working on Open Safely, the Reproducible Analytical Pipeline team, or Team RAP, and the Researcher Experience team, or Team REX. All I'm going to say is the teams chose their own names. So we try to always assign development work to teams, not to individuals. And we also try to make those teams independent from each other, so neither team is waiting on the other one to be able to get their work done. Of course, they still do talk to each other. There's lots of communication across the teams. So in order to make those teams independent, we try to split responsibility of the teams according to sort of coherent chunks of the user journey through Open Safely. So this shows a sort of simplified view of that user journey, all the way through from someone applying and getting a project approved, through to when they get some release results for a publication. And then a simplified view of how those responsibilities of the teams are split across that user journey. Under the hood, we also try to make sure that the different teams are responsible for different bits of software. So this diagram shows the technical architecture of Open Safely. You don't need to know about the details, but the blue boxes represent different software applications. And this is, again, a simplified view of how those are distributed and split across the teams. Sometimes we get an application that ends up with shared responsibility across the teams, but we work towards trying to separate that into separate applications. That can't happen overnight, but that's the goal. Next, we empower these teams. The sort of reasoning underlying that is that people on the front line have the most context and are therefore able to make the best decisions, so long as they also have the higher level context kind of made available to them. So this is something what we call our work pipeline helps with. This diagram is a kind of representation of our tech team's work pipeline for Open Safely from a few months ago. Each of the yellow post-its represents a chunk of work, which we call an initiative. And importantly, it's the teams themselves who decide what goes into this pipeline and how we move these initiatives through it. So really, this is kind of fundamentally a communication tool so that everyone can see what each team is working on and what's coming up next. But it's also used, or we use it to help communicate that higher level context as well. And that's up at the top. So, for example, if our leadership decide that we want to really prioritize improving the experience for new users of Open Safely, then Team Rex might decide that they want to focus on improving the experience of learning to use Open Safely and setting up the environment. So they might build code spaces or introduce code spaces, and they did, and you just heard about it. And similarly, Team RAP might decide they want to improve the process of releasing results, and they might build something like Airlog, which again, they did, and you've heard about. Of course, we still need to have the conversation between the teams and the leadership. That's still really important. Another thing we do to make sure that we're delivering this value quickly is that we limit work in progress. Now, that might seem counterintuitive, but as well as it being nicer for the people doing the work, it's actually much more efficient to work on complex things one at a time. Otherwise, you lose huge amounts of time to context switching. And again, this is something the way our work pipeline helps with. We limit our initiatives to one thing being in delivery at a time per team. So earlier on, there might be lots of options we consider. We might test lots of different ideas, but by this point in delivery, we just have one each. Another thing that allows the teams to really focus on the initiatives is that in between them, we have these periods of what we call deck scrubbing. And that allows the teams to really immerse themselves in the initiative because they know if there's some maintenance or bug fixing they need to do, they can do that during those deck scrubbing periods. Unless, of course, there's something really urgent, in which case we just do it. For Open Safely to do good in the world, we need people to be using it. So we really want to understand our users. Guessing what our users want is nowhere near as good as actually watching people try to use your product, and particularly try to use it in the context of doing their work, of what they're trying to ultimately achieve. So we observe and we talk to our users, many of you in the audience, as much as we can. We also try to think about the whole user experience, not just the bit that each team is responsible for. So, for example, Team Rex observed how people go about learning how to use Open Safely and mapped that out and identified there was a pain point of installing all the software and decided, after testing different options, to introduce code spaces. We also, even after we've delivered something, we put it into this extra observation phase so that we can really still keep watching whether our users are using the thing we just built, whether they're getting benefit from it, so we can see if the benefit we expected is really happening, and if not, we can learn from that and we can improve it. We try to maximize the value that we deliver with the teams that we've got. So we ask ourselves, is the thing that we're working on right now of high value? And again, this is something the work pipeline helps us with. It's designed to be really flexible because complex systems change really, really quickly. So as you go left to right on the pipeline, the number of options goes down and the amount of detail goes up. And that really helps us to not plan too far, put a lot of energy into planning in advance, but really focus our energy on the current work. We also expect that as we learn more about these initiatives as they come through, we might find they're not as valuable as we thought, or they're going to be more effort than we expected. If that happens, we just move them back into that basket of ideas and pick up something else. And finally, even once we're fully in delivery, we try to keep in mind the value we're trying to deliver, because that really helps with the day-to-day decisions about which elements are really important. So as I said at the start, I got into product management because I believe that it's the most effective way to deliver real-world value really quickly and well. And by shaping our tech team's work the way we do, I think we're really, really achieving that. And I'm really proud to be part of this team. And so I hope I've convinced you that working the way we do, using a product approach is really powerful, and it's going to help us to keep improving open safely, and so that our users can improve people's lives.